In this microcast, CCI founder and CEO Jake Weiss speaks with Jesse Wright, a high-performance consultant and former head coach of strength and conditioning with the Philadelphia 76ers NBA team. Here, Jake and Jesse discuss how an individual can interpret and best understand their coachability quotient assessment results.
Operationally, now we get into sort of the nuts and bolts of the actual assessment and the process for coachability consultants. The report is very impressive. I loved when I first got mine back, had a chance to, you digest it and you read through and you sort of make sense of the information and all that stuff. But for anyone that's gone through the assessment, anyone that might be implementing the assessment, what are some of the thoughts and the considerations that someone should think about as they read through their own report, to make sure we're sort of internalizing it as best as possible, maybe even before you get a chance to have it explained?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I like to start with some of these kind of main themes to keep in mind as you interpret your results. And one of those, like with most assessments out there, anyone that's taken assessments and have had them debriefed before have likely heard there's no inherently good or bad scores. And as you see a report, there are 10 different factors in there, and you'll see from a 0 to 100, kind of where do you stand on that factor? And as many of us have gone through different levels of schooling before, we see a 0 to 100, we equate them to a letter grade that we'd get in school, and we think anything under a 70 is a D, and anything under 60 we failed. And that's not the way that we should interpret the assessment. The way that we want to look at it is that the true value comes not from the number value that's attached to one of the factors, but really in understanding how does the specific facet and aspect of coachability show up for you on a day-to-day. Does it enable your success? Does it enable you to operate at highly coachable levels? Or might that factor potentially have some derailing implications for you? So it's important not to say, I scored really high here, it's good. I scored really low here, it's bad. The importance is really bringing awareness to it and starting to understand and put language to how it comes to life for you on a day-to-day. An example of that, as I say, no good or bad, there's an individual that I've worked with extensively who scored really, really high in curiosity. And many people see a lot of value in being high in curiosity. Anyone that saw the score in the assessment would say, that's good. And in talking through it with her, what we came to the conclusion about, and what she came to the conclusion about, was that her curiosity actually serves as a derailer for her at times, where she actually goes down a lot of different rabbit holes when trying to complete the task at hand in a way that takes away from her ability to get things done quickly. So while you score high, or while she scores high in that factor, and it seems like a good thing, starting to really understand what that factor means and how it shows up for her actually led her to understand that there's work to be done to grow in that area, to bring more intentionality to her curiosity. So I say all of this just to put an example behind not all high is good, not all low is bad. The importance is understanding how does it show up for you on a day-to-day? How does it serve you well? And how might it stand in your way? So that's one thing. Not all high is good, not all low is bad. The other piece is that as you interpret your results, as you look at the assessment, even if you haven't gotten to the descriptions of the different characteristics yet, you will see words like humility, you'll see words like authenticity. Not all the factors within the coachability assessment hold the true dictionary definition meaning of that word. And so humility within the context of the coachability assessment is not about whether you're humble as a person, whether or not you brag. It's really about, do you express humility? Do you view others as valuable sources of learning? Are you willing to shift your perspective when presented with new information? So you might not be humble in the traditional sense, but you can still express humility. So we're not getting at, do you brag or not? It's really about that. With authenticity, we're not measuring and looking at whether or not you're genuine or authentic as a human, whether you bring your full self to work. It's looking at authenticity with respect to a feedback, coaching, and coachability context. When you're seeking coaching and feedback, Are you doing it for the most authentic reasons, or might there be other motives that are influencing why you're seeking out that information? So that's the second point. Not all the factors have the dictionary definition that you would typically ascribe to that word. It's important to interpret these with respect to the context of coaching, coachability, and feedback. And the last point I always like to note is that when people look at their results, there are often certain factors that they resonate with immediately. And there might be some surprises that come out. And there might be one or two that people look at and say, I don't think that describes me. And we're not here to tell you that that's who you are. What we encourage people to do when they do find a factor that doesn't really jive with them, that doesn't make as much sense or doesn't resonate as much, do some investigating, do some digging. So use your curiosity, ask another source. How do they see you with respect to this area? Do they see the same thing you do, or do they have a different perspective? So we just encourage everyone to approach their results with curiosity and do some investigating. Ask some questions to those around them that might have some observations or some input on where they stand in that factor and if that score aligns with what they might perceive. But otherwise, we really look at this tool as the foundational piece of starting our journey to highly coachable. We want to bring awareness to where we fall with respect to our coachability. And with that awareness, we can bring more intention to how we operate. And ultimately, we can create and chart actions that allow us to start moving in that highly coachable direction.
Yeah, I love what you said about sort of that external audit and asking others about any one of these factors. When you look at a lot of the literature about self-awareness, of course, everybody, I think, intuitively understands it as, I know my own strengths and weaknesses. I'm aware of myself, and that's certainly something that an assessment like this can add to. And that would be sort of what is termed the internal component. You're very aware of yourself, but a less known but very important factor, sort of second pillar of self-awareness, is how does everybody else interpret my strengths and weaknesses, right? As we know, we're, generally the worlds we're in are interpersonal, and they always engage and interact with others. So not only am I aware of my own strengths and weaknesses, but I'm also aware of how people perceive those strengths and weaknesses. And the assessment can only add to both of those when you embrace it, as you just outlined, for sure.
Thank you for listening to this CCI Microcast. To learn more, visit coachabilityconsultants.com.